My sister pretended to be ill and turned my parents against me. She stole my tuition, got me kicked out of college, and forced me into the garage. The trial revealed everything. The house breathed silence, thick and damp like insulation stuffed into the walls. Claire moved through the hallway, her feet encased in thick gray foam. Asterisk. Thump shush. Asterisk. Asterisk. Every step felt like an apology to the air itself. Melissa, draped across the living room sofa in noise-canceling headphones that covered her ears like oversized padded clamshells, rested her head on a velvet cushion. "Too loud, Claire?" her mother whispered from the doorway, her voice strained thin with manufactured worry. "The floorboards are vibrating again." "You know the frequencies agitate her. I am wearing the slippers," Claire managed, her throat tight. The carpet, a deep burgundy relic that smelled faintly of mothballs, covered every inch of the main floor. A necessary barrier against the supposed sonic terrorism Claire inflicted merely by existing. Melissa lifted a hand, a gesture of immense suffering. "It sounds like tiny hammers hitting my skull, Mom, like gravel." "See? Gravel," the mother repeated, her gaze boring into Claire, not with anger, but with the weary conviction of someone protecting a fragile artifact. This regime had solidified 6 months after Melissa announced her diagnosis: auditory processing sensitivity, a highly specific, entirely unverified offshoot of ADHD that only manifested when Claire was near. Claire's room, once upstairs, now sat empty. Her belongings were stacked neatly in the corner of the garage, a concrete box smelling perpetually of gasoline residue and cold earth. "You need to stay out there, sweetie," her father said one evening, not looking up from his ledger. "It's cleaner air, less impact vibration. We installed that heavy matting, remember? For your comfort." Comfort. The word tasted like rust. The garage was Claire's new dominion, a place where sound traveled freely, mocking the silence she was supposed to enforce inside. She spent hours staring at the single grimy window set high above the workbench, watching the sun track across the asphalt driveway. One Tuesday, the digital world betrayed her. Claire logged into the university portal from the library computer, the only place she felt safe enough to use a keyboard without her parents hovering. She flew home, forgetting the slippers, launching herself across the polished hardwood floor of the entryway. Asterisk thwack. THWACK. Asterisk. The sound echoed sharply. Melissa shot upright on the sofa, ripping the headphones off. "Stop. You are attacking me. The college canceled me," Claire shouted, the volume surprising even herself. "My tuition? It's gone." Her father materialized from the study, his face instantly adopting a mask of patient exasperation. "Claire, we discussed this. You needed to manage your finances better. We told you the emergency fund was depleted after Melissa's recent specialist visits." "No, you didn't tell me?" "I was enrolled. I had classes this morning. Someone dropped me. Someone canceled the payment authorization." Claire felt a frantic energy buzzing beneath her skin. It was Melissa. "She's been on my laptop." Melissa let out a delicate, wounded sound. "Oh, Claire, that's cruel. Truly cruel. After everything we do to keep my environment stable, you accuse me of sabotage. I was here reading my cognitive therapy workbook while you were probably out making noise. Show them the login history, Dad. Check the IP logs." "I know she accessed my accounts." Her mother placed a cool hand on Claire's arm, pushing her away gently but firmly. "Stop this hysteria. Melissa is sensitive, not malicious. You are projecting your stress onto her. Go back to the garage. Cool down. We will discuss your poor planning tomorrow." The door clicked shut behind Claire, a heavy final sound. She stood on the oil-stained concrete, the cold seeping through the thin soles of the foam slippers. Asterisk gravel. Asterisk, she thought bitterly. Asterisk, she turned my life into gravel. Asterisk, the next morning, Claire didn't return to the house. She walked 3 miles to the one person who always saw the cracks in the family facade: Aunt Rosa. Rosa lived in a small, sun-drenched bungalow outside the city limits. When Claire stumbled onto the porch, exhausted and smelling faintly of mildew, Rosa opened the door before Claire even knocked. "I knew you'd show eventually, child," Rosa said, pulling Claire into a hug that smelled of lavender and strong coffee. "Your mother's silence on the phone lately has been deafening." Inside, over lukewarm tea, Claire laid out the wreckage. The canceled classes, The financial void, the impossible rules. The foam slippers, Rosa scoffed, setting her mug down with a decisive asterisk clink asterisk that made Claire flinch reflexively. That child is a master performer. She's been pulling this since she was 7 and wanted the window seat on vacation. They believe her. They see me as the threat. Then we change what they see, Rosa declared, her voice low and firm. You need proof that isn't just your word against her carefully constructed fragility. Melissa's game relies on secrecy and your compliance. We break both. Rosa made calls. She contacted a friend of her husband's, a sharp, no-nonsense investigator who passed the digital trail to Ethan Ramirez, Claire's former roommate and a computer science prodigy. Ethan understood the architecture of digital deceit. "Okay, Claire," Ethan's voice crackled over the phone days later. He sounded energized, a welcome contrast to the house's oppressive quiet. "Your parents' home network is locked down tighter than Fort Knox, but Melissa isn't that slick. She used a VPN, sure, but the transaction trails? That's sloppy. She logged into the financial aid portal from a local Starbucks IP address, 2 days asterisk after asterisk. She was supposedly home with a migraine, listening to white noise. She was out. She was online, making sure your life disappeared. Get this. I found 3 recently opened credit cards under your social security number, all maxed out on electronics and, get this, luxury noise-canceling headphones. Top of the line. It's the kind that retail for what your semester tuition cost." The evidence cascaded. Detective Mariah Chen, assigned to the resulting identity theft report, was relentless. Chen had the weary skepticism of someone who had seen too many family secrets weaponized. "The medical records are forged," Chen stated plainly during a meeting at the precinct. "The specialist signatures for Melissa's supposed sound sensitivity, they belong to a retired veterinarian in Arizona," we verified. The only hurdle remained the parents. Claire arranged a meeting at a neutral location, brightly lit, overwhelmingly loud Italian restaurant downtown. She brought the printouts, the credit applications, the vet's affidavit, the IP logs. "Look at this, Mom, Dad. This isn't stress. This is fraud." Claire slid the stack across the checkered tablecloth. Her father picked up the top sheet, his hand trembling slightly. "This is aggressive, Claire. You're harassing your sister with fabricated documents." Melissa, seated between them, began to whimper softly, her hands fluttering near her temples. "It's the lighting. It's too harsh. And the clatter." She leaned heavily against her mother. "She brought these terrible papers here to cause a scene. She wants me to shatter. I want the truth." Claire slammed her palm flat on the table. Asterisk, crash. Asterisk, the silverware jumped. Melissa let out a sound that was half scream, half broken sob, a high-pitched, piercing asterisk eek. Asterisk, she bolted from the booth, knocking over a carafe of water which splashed across the table and soaked the evidence. "She hit me. She attacked me in public." Melissa wailed, clutching her mother's arm, her face a mask of manufactured terror. The surrounding diners turned. Claire watched, defeated, as her parents rushed to comfort Melissa, ushering her out of the restaurant while her father shot Claire a look of profound disappointment. The water ruined the ink on the crucial bank statements. The noise, the chaos, it was Melissa's element. Claire had walked into her sister's trap, and the public spectacle served only to reinforce the narrative of the unstable older sister. Aunt Rosa intervened again, navigating the bureaucratic maze. The weight of the evidence was undeniable, even if the parents refused to see it. The district attorney filed charges. Before the trial, Leo Sanders, slick defense attorney smelling faintly of expensive cologne and desperation, briefly represented Melissa. He met with Claire and Rosa in a sterile conference room. "Look, I specialize in white-collar, not familial breakdown," Leo sighed, leaning back until his chair squeaked ominously. "Your sister is aggressively uncooperative. She insists she is the victim of a coordinated smear campaign orchestrated by you and your shady hacker friends." "She's arrogant," Claire observed. "Arrogant? She's a fortress of self-delusion? She won't even let me discuss a plea deal. She told me verbatim, 'I don't need counsel. I am the only reliable witness in this entire family.' She fired me this morning, said she'd represent herself." Leo packed his briefcase with a decisive asterisk. Snap asterisk. "Good luck, kid. You're facing a performance artist." The courtroom smelled of old wood polish and nervous sweat. Judge Harriet Lorne presided, her silver hair pulled back severely, her eyes sharp enough to dissect an argument before it was fully voiced. The defendant, Ms. Melissa Hayes, will represent herself, Judge Lorne stated, her voice resonating with absolute authority. Let the record reflect that the court advised Ms. Hayes of the risks inherent in self-representation against trained prosecution. Melissa stood at the defense table, wearing a pale blue dress that made her look deceptively fragile. She glanced at Claire, a flicker of pure malice crossing her features before she smoothed her expression into one of serene victimization. The prosecution laid out the financial timeline. Detective Chen presented the forged veterinary records. The evidence mounted swiftly, but the jury seemed hesitant, watching Melissa's subtle head shakes and gasps. Then came Claire's testimony. She walked to the stand, her movements deliberate, slow. She didn't wear slippers. She wore sturdy, hard-soled leather boots she had purchased the day after the restaurant incident. They felt heavy, grounding. Ms. Hayes, the prosecutor, began gently. Can you describe the conditions of your living situation for the jury? Claire looked past the prosecutor, straight at the jury box. I lived in the garage. A murmur rippled through the gallery. Describe that space for us. It was concrete. It's cold in winter, stifling in summer. The only sound insulation was a thin sheet of particle board separating my sleeping area from the car battery charger. I was relegated there because my sister claimed my footsteps caused her physical pain. Did you ever hear Melissa experiencing this pain when you were not present? Never. When I was at school, she was fine. When I visited Aunt Rose's house for a weekend last year, she hosted a large dinner party. Laughter, music, scraping chairs, all perfectly tolerable for her, provided I wasn't within earshot. The prosecutor nodded, then turned to the defense table. Ms. Hayes, your cross-examination. Melissa stood, adjusting her posture, attempting to command the room with sheer force of practiced innocence. Ms. Hayes, Melissa began, her voice pitched high, dripping with false concern. You claim you were forced out, but isn't it true that you were failing 2 of your advanced mathematics courses before the withdrawal? I was struggling, yes, Claire admitted. But I was passing. I was seeking extensions, not dropping out entirely. Did you ever consider that perhaps your disruptive energy was affecting your ability to focus on complex equations? Melissa leaned forward, her eyes wide and earnest. Did you ever stop to consider that perhaps you, were the source of the tension in the home, and that my sensitivity was merely a physical manifestation of that stress? No, Claire stated flatly. I considered that you wanted my tuition money for your own spending, and you needed me gone to get it. Preposterous. Where is the proof of this malice? Melissa challenged, throwing her hands up. I have documented medical needs. You have only conjecture and the biased word of an envious sibling? I have proof that you fabricated those needs, Claire countered, her voice gaining resonance. The vet in Arizona confirmed he never treated you. Detective Chen has the sworn affidavit. Melissa froze. Her carefully constructed mask slipped, revealing a flash of raw panic. She stared wildly at the prosecutor, then back at Claire. That's a lie. She's lying. She planted that. She manipulated the old man. Melissa stumbled backward, knocking her water glass over. Splash. She's trying to frame me. I can't breathe in here. The acoustics, they are designed to break me. Judge Lorne's gavel hit the sounding block with a sharp, authoritative crack. Ms. Hayes, control yourself. You are badgering the witness and disrupting the court. Melissa ignored her, her voice rising to a shriek. You think you're so smart, Claire? You think you're better than me because you can walk around making noise? You think you deserve that money? I needed those new headphones, the ones that cancel everything. They were the only thing that made the world stop hurting. The admission hung in the air, thick and undeniable. She hadn't just stolen the money. She had spent it on the very tools meant to protect her from the supposed noise Claire made. The prosecutor seized the opening. Ms. Hayes, you testified earlier that you were home, incapacitated by migraines. On the dates the financial aid was canceled. Is that correct? Yes, I was in bed. Yet Detective Chen provided records showing your phone pinged a tower near the Starbucks on Elm Street at 2:15 p.m. on October 14th. Were you, in fact, out of the house that day? Melissa's face drained of color. She looked around the courtroom frantically, searching for an escape route that didn't exist. I went for air. A quick drive, just around the block. I didn't access anything. Did you use your sister's laptop at that time? Melissa's composure shattered completely. She began to shake her head violently, a high, thin sound escaping her throat knot. A planned sob, but a sound of pure, cornered terror. No, I didn't mean to drop the classes. I just wanted to see if I could asterisk. I wanted to know I had control. I wanted them to see how much I needed protection. And you were always so loud, Claire, always stomping around. The jury did not need to hear more. The performance was over. The verdict came swiftly. Guilty on all counts: identity theft, wire fraud, and obstruction of justice. Melissa offered no reaction, only a blank stare directed at the ceiling tiles, as if the noise of justice itself was too much to bear. The aftermath was not the catharsis Claire expected. Deliberation was incomplete. She visited Grandma Evelyn's small, orderly farmhouse 2 days after the sentencing. The house smelled of baking bread and damp earth from the nearby fields. Evelyn, frail but possessing eyes that missed nothing, poured Claire a glass of iced lemonade. The silence in that courtroom was louder than any scream, Evelyn observed, stirring sugar into her own glass. But your parents are still fighting the verdict, aren't they? They called me vindictive, Claire whispered, leaning her head against the cool wood of the porch railing. They said, Melissa cracked under pressure. They said the fraud was likely a misunderstanding, and the identity theft was probably done by a hacker who targeted both of us. Your mother's sister always preferred the easy story, Evelyn said, a hint of sadness in her tone. It's easier to believe your child is fragile than to admit you built a cage for the other one. They won't even visit Melissa in jail. They just send money and letters demanding she retract her statements about their parenting. They lost control, dear one. They don't know how to mourn the lie they built their peace upon. Evelyn patted Claire's hand. But you didn't lose yourself. That is the victory. Claire spent 2 weeks at Evelyn's, sleeping in a room where the only sounds were crickets and the distant lowing of cattle. She enrolled in online courses, Professor Wilcox having been instrumental in securing her immediate reinstatement and a reduced course load for the coming semester. We value resilience here, Ms. Hayes, Wilcox had told her during their first virtual meeting. Your academic record before this debacle was stellar. We address the external factors, not penalize the victim of them. Welcome back. The final scene unfolded months later, back in the city, in Claire's new small apartment. It was sparsely furnished, a second-hand desk, a worn armchair, and a window that overlooked a busy street intersection. It was raining outside, the sound of tires hissing on wet pavement a constant, rhythmic asterisk. She-THWIP asterisk. Claire stood in the center of the living room rug, which she had chosen herself a geometric pattern of sharp, intersecting black and white lines. She looked down at her feet. She wore heavy steel-toed work boots, the leather thick and scuffed from long walks taken without apology. She lifted her right foot, swung it back, and brought it down hard onto the floorboards, bypassing the rug entirely. Asterisk thud. Asterisk. The sound traveled through the floor, sharp and undeniable. It was not an apology. It was not a plea for silence. It was simply the sound of weight meeting resistance. She took another step, deliberately heavy. Asterisk thud. Asterisk the sound vibrated up her legs, anchoring her to the space. She walked toward the door, her gait steady, the sound of her boots echoing briefly in the small space. Asterisk thud. 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 Asterisk. She did not flinch. She did not slow down. The footsteps were hers now, loud and true, announcing her presence in the world she had fought so hard to reclaim. She reached the threshold, paused for only a second, and then swung the apartment door open, stepping out into the world. Her heavy boots marking the path forward,